Hello, it's your friend Phil here, Project Management Trainer and Coach. Today we're going to do a quick brain dump of TCPI, the Two Complete Performance Index. Two Complete Performance Index. TCPI. Think of it like this. It is the index of ease to complete the project at management's cost objective. It's a measure of how easy or how likely it is to complete the project at management's objective. If your TCPI is so much greater than 1, you will likely not complete the project at management's cost objective. In other words, if management initially said, here's your budget, you have $8 million to complete the project. If at some point your TCPI is equal to 2, this tells management that you are likely not going to complete the project at the $8 million. So the higher the TCPI, that tells you the more unlikely it is to meet management's cost objective. It is important we break it down into these tiny little pieces, because very often people just look at the formula without understanding what exactly the formula is meant to tell them, what exactly that index, because it is an index. So you do need to understand what the index is telling you. The more the index is greater than 1, the less likely you are to complete the project at management's objective. So going back to our example here, if management says, here's 8 million to get the project done, midway in the project, management comes back and says, what's your TCPI? You tell management it's 2. That means you are highly unlikely to finish the project at 8 million. Why? Because TCPI tells you how much you need to be making on every unit of currency you spend. So think of it like this. TCPI is a measure how much you need to make on every unit of cost. For example, consider the dollar. For every dollar that is spent, in order to meet management's objective of 8 million, if TCPI is 2, this tells us that we need to make $2 for every dollar spent. How are you going to do that? That becomes the question management will ask. You cannot make $2 on every dollar, except there's labor and resources that are not being billed as they should have. For example, on a project I was on many years ago, a project manager made a grave mistake in the estimate. And at the end of the day, he had to work his time on this hourly billed project for free. He ended up not billing his time. In other words, we ended up losing, but because he charged nothing to the customer, we pretty much made the budget, but we lost internally. That is a remote example of how this could pan out in the real world. So when you think about TCPI, TCPI is equal to your work remaining divided by your funds remaining. So think about it. On this project, where there was $8 million worth of work to do in total, let's say the work remaining is $4 million, but the funds remaining is $2 million. Your TCPI will be 2. Know this formula because it is possible that you get questions of a simpler nature that may not involve all of the different metrics that you find in the traditional TCPI formula. Let's take a look at that formula. The formula is TCPI equals, remember, your work remaining, which is the total amount of work budgeted minus the work done, EV. That is your work remaining, divided by your funds remaining, your budget minus your actual cost tells you the funds remaining. So the formula for TCPI based on the BAC is BAC minus EV divided by BAC minus AC. So, in memorizing this formula for any reason, if you needed to, B and BA. Simple as that. That is your TCPI based on the BAC. Okay, now let's take a look at the second TCPI formula. TCPI based on the EAC, and that becomes, again, work remaining divided by funds remaining. But in this instance, we need to think about management granting your request for more money if such a request came up. So our work remaining would still be BAC minus EV, but the funds remaining will be EAC, estimate at completion, new money that management would give you minus AC. And at times, management wants to know TCPI based on the EAC that you are requesting to identify if indeed this will make any difference on the project. So think of it like this. Again, it's B divided by E minus A. So these are ways you can break it down into smaller alphabets, smaller alphabetical arrangements to just see 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom instead of 4 letters. So that's one way to get around that. But ultimately, in this example, if, as I told you, the BAC was $8 million and we had work remaining as being $4 million, in this example, we would have something like this. 8 minus 4 million, of course, divided by 8 minus 6. The actual cost is 6, and we would have 4 over 2, and that's how we would get the TCPI of 2. The TCPI of 2, again, means it is highly unlikely that you will meet management's cost objective of 8 million. If you want to make management's objective of 8 million, you need to be getting $2 million worth of work done for $1 million, or if you will, $2 on every dollar you spend. If you take a look at the EAC formula, again, you would have 8 minus 4 at the top, and below, assuming you asked for a rebaseline and you came clean and you did an EAC calculation to the effect of this, your actual cost is 6, your earned value is 4. So your CPI is 2 over 3. Think about it. Your CPI is your earned value. This is EV. This is actual cost, AC. Your CPI is going to be 4 divided by 6, which is equal to 2 over 3, which is 0.67. Now, if you take that number and plug it in here, you have 8 divided by 0.67. In other words, you have 8 divided by 2 over 3. And that is 8 times 3 over 2, which is 12. And that means your EAC is 12. See that? So if our EAC was calculated to be 12, then what we would do is plug in a 12 as EAC, for example. So we would have 12 minus the actual cost of 6, and that will be 4 divided by 6. So at the end of the day, we have a TCPI based on the EAC, again, of 0.67. So what does this tell us? This tells us that based on new additional money given to the project to the tune of $4 million extra, if that happens, the project team only needs to achieve 0.67 cents for every dollar. In other words, you spend $1 and you get 0.67 cents, which has a lot of redundancy built in and a lot of leeway. It is very likely that you will meet budget if your TCPI is 0.67 versus if it were 2. I hope that clarifies TCPI for you. And that concludes our review of TCPI. Remember, we have boot camps coming up. We have a half-day boot camp. If you go to pmsucceed.com, click on Micro Boot Camp, and check out when the next one is. Take care and bye for now.